Muy buenos días para todos.
Good morning to everyone. Magdalena University, through their international offices, extend the welcome to the Transnational Just Center, Energy, Climate, and Sustainability by called TRAJECTS in the framework of the Sustainability Transitions Month. This university is part of this center among of the 4 centers announced in the funding of Germany, and it will become in the first transnational center to foment the investigation and exchange of knowledge around the world. And it will help to identify the challenges in common to reach a true transition for a sustainability transition model. Pablo Vera Salazar, Rector of Magdalena University, Dr. Rafael Garcia Luna, Dean of the Economic Science, Dr. Edgar Villegas Villarte from the Humanities Faculty, TRAJECTS, and Mr. Roberto Almanza from TRAJECTS University, politologist or political scientist. It's also here joining engineer Marla Maesen Major, project manager from TRAJECTS Uni Magdalena Pauju, director of TRAJECTS project, Mrs. Natalie Magister from TRAJECTS, from the Colombia National University, Mr. Alvaro Castro from Aguasitirico, Mrs. from the Strength Mujeres Waju,
representante de la Universidad de Cape
representative from Cape Town University, Magister Felipe Corral, representative of Technology University from Berlin, Magister Mrs. Yangwa from Berlin Technological University. We also say hi people from the Academy and all those that are joining us from Facebook Live. And now we welcome you from Pablo Vera Salazar from University of Magdalena.
Muy buenos días para todos y todas.
Good morning to everyone. I want to say hi on behalf of Magdalena University and give you a warm welcome to all the national and international attendees, and especially from our communities. And thank you for being here today. Giving a Caribbean sense, I want to say hi to our Dean and also Andrea Cardosa from TRAJECTS Uni Magdalena, Roberto Almanza, professor from Anthropology, Magister Natalie from TRAJECTS of the National University of Colombia, Mrs. Angélica García from Mujeres Waju, and the representative from the TRAJECTS universities in Germany and Colombia, especially Dr. Pau Zhou, director of TRAJECTS project, Carlos Coronado, director of our international university, engineer Marla, our project manager from the university, and also the representative from the University of Cape Town, Magister Felipe Carrol from University of Berlin, and in general to all the professors that are part of this project. I just share and I just remember that everything started 5 years ago, and I think it was one of the first events I did as a rector with Catalan from Barcelona. I don't know exactly, but Martín Olier came here and he just received an award, and he was talking about something that we were not talking, and it was about ecological economy and how that had to be a key element from Magdalena University. And we started like that, and that brought us here in a series of events, academic events, with the community to talk about climate change and give a voice to many of the communities that never had a voice, to put in top all those thoughts. And maybe that was because of the economic model we didn't take into account. But sometimes, as our communities, indigenous communities teach us, nature is only one, and the rocks, the water, the mountains are important. And I was thinking about that after going
tenemos
to
mucho que
the
aprender porque nosotros
Nevada
enseñamos que los
tierra,
reinos de la
we
naturaleza
have many things
son
to
animal,
learn
vegetal y
because
mineral.
the
Y que
kingdom of the
básicamente lo que nos
nature,
diferencia es que el
animals,
vegetal y el animal
vegetables,
tiene vida
and
y
the
el mineral
difference
no.
is that
Y
the
resulta que para
animals and
nuestras
vegetables
comunidades
have
las
life and the
piedras
minerals do
también
not
tienen
have
vida,
it.
hacen parte
But
del
in our
todo, de la madre
communities, the
naturaleza.
rocks are
Que no
part
vale
of
la
the
pena lo que
nature,
creamos
and
que
it's
hay
not
debajo de
worth it
ellas,
to think what
explotarla
is
porque luego pagaremos
behind
las
of it, to
consecuencias como lo
exploit
estamos
it,
viendo
because
hoy en día.
then we are going
Creo
to
que
suffer
una
the
transición
consequences as we've
energética que es
seen.
parte de del espíritu
Energetical
también de este
transition
proyecto de
is
cooperación
part of the
global,
spirit that
ante todo,
enhances this
crear sinergias
global
y cooperación,
project.
porque
We
a lo
have to
mejor lo que
generate
funciona en
cooperation and
Copenhague o Dinamarca
synergy,
no va a
because
funcionar en las
maybe
aguas,
what
pero
works in
también muchas de
Copenhagen,
las cosas que se puedan
Denmark,
hacer
is
en las
not going
aguas
to work
pueden
here.
enseñar a
But
Alemania o a
maybe
Sudáfrica
what we
sobre
do in the
maneras
hours can teach
distintas
South
de
Africa and
entender nuestra
Germany of
relación con la
different
naturaleza.
ways on
Una
how
transición
is
de ese,
our
en ese
relationship with
sentido
the
tiene que ser
nature. A
precisamente como lo
transition in
dice
that
el
way
espíritu
needs
del
to
proyecto,
be,
una
as the
transición
project itself
justa,
says it,
solidaria e
a
incluyente, que
just,
no deja a nadie en el
fair, and
camino. Resulta
inclusive
paradójico
transition
que
that
nosotros
doesn't let anyone
acabáramos
on
nuestros
the
ríos, vaciáramos
on the
gran
left.
parte de nuestros ecosistemas para
Many of
exportar
our
carbón para darle
ecosystems,
energía a
we
Europa, mientras
export
muchas de
carbon to
nuestras
provide
comunidades no
energy
tienen
to
agua
Europe,
potable ni
but
tienen
at the
energía.
same time, our communities
Resulta
don't have
paradójico que entonces
potable
hagamos una
water.
transición,
It is a
instalar parques de
paradox
energía
that
solar
we
y nuestras
try to
comunidades no
install
tengan
solar
agua potable o no
energy,
tengan
and
energía.
our
Una
communities don't
transición
have
energética
energy.
implica
An
que, en primer
energetic
lugar, quienes
transition
vivimos en
implies
los
that
territorios
those who
podamos
live
recibir
in
los
the
beneficios
territories
sociales y
can receive
económicos
the
de esa
social and
transición y no
economical
solamente los
benefits
permisos.
from
Una
that
transición implica
transition.
no que
A
ahora todos los
transition
que tienen
implies that
vehículos a
not
gasolina
everyone
pasen a
who
tener
has
vehículos
gas
eléctricos, cuando la gran mayoría de la gente tiene que seguirse
have
movilizando
electrical
en
vehicles,
tracción animal o en
while the
mototaxis o
other
inclusive a
needs to
pie,
use
porque no
other
tienen
type of
vías ni
vehicle or
transporte
by
público viable.
food because they don't
Una
have the
transición
roads
energética
or
implica
public
no
transport.
pasar y
Energetic
volver la moda de
transition
que llenemos
implies to
nuestras ciudades, nuestras
not
comunidades de
only
paneles solares
fill
y luego
the
la
cities
disposición
with
final de esos
solar
paneles termine
panels, and
agravando
in
el
the
problema.
end, they
Y ahí la
end up
universidad en
making
general, no
the
solo la
problem
colombiana, la
even
universidad
worse.
del mundo
And
tiene
the
mucho que
general
aportar.
around the
Tiene que dar
university
ejemplo
around the world needs
precisamente
to
en esa
provide a
transición.
lot of
En el marco de este proyecto y
examples
como parte de nuestra
in the
política de
frame of this
sostenibilidad,
project,
estamos
and
avanzando en
our
la generación de
policies are
energía para que
sustainability.
cada
We're
vez
moving
nuestros espacios
forward
sean más
in the
sostenibles,
generation of
generemos
energy. So
procesos de
our
economía
spaces
circular,
are
pero también de
more
recuperación ambiental
sustainable,
del
and
campus para
also
que el campus de la
recover
universidad,
the
en este
field.
caso, quienes
So
no la
in this
conocen,
case, the
somos la
university,
única
and for
universidad
those
que
who
tiene en
don't
sus
know
predios
this
una parcela de
university,
bosque seco
we
tropical
are the
conservado.
ones who
En
have
pandemia
a
identificamos más de
forest,
60
conserved
especies de aves que
forest,
llegaron
and
porque
during the
si usted
pandemic,
mira
we
las ciudades de
identified
Río, es de
over
las pocas
60
zonas verdes que están
species
quedando
of
en Santa Marta.
birds, and
Hemos entendido
this
que el
is one
desarrollo
of
es
the few
terminar
areas like that.
desecando los
We have
humedales, terminar
understand
transformando
that we have to
un reservorio natural,
transform some natural
impermeabilizarlo para hacer
reservoirs,
un supuesto
and
parque del agua en una ciudad que no tiene agua potable, en
do
una ciudad que
this
no cuida sus cuencas y en la cual
that
le damos la espalda a nuestras
we
comunidades indígenas que son
turn
quienes
back to
conservan
our
el agua, aguas
indigenous
arriba y en la ciudad.
communities.
Y ese ejercicio
And
de
that
responsabilidad
exercise, that
compartida tenemos que hacerlo
responsibility, shared
desde la
responsibility,
investigación.
we have
Yo
to do
valoro y
it from
pondero
the
el esfuerzo de la profe
research.
Andrea, del
I
profesor, del decano,
highlight
porque es un esfuerzo
the effort of
interdisciplinario de la
all the
Oficina de Relaciones
professors because it's
Internacionales
something
de salir de la zona de
interdisciplinary
confort
to
del
take
científico
out, to
clásico
go
que se
out
dedica solo a
from the
publicar y a
comfort
ir a
zone
congresos
that
para
they
engrandecer su
dedicate
posición.
only to go to
Yo aquí digo profes, pero
seminars,
en general
but
estamos llenos de
here
doctores,
we
y somos
are
doctores,
here
pero
full of
y cada vez
doctors,
publicamos
but
cosas
every
¿y
time
qué
we
pasa con las
publish
comunidades?
more
¿Qué
things.
pasa con ese
But what
conocimiento? ¿A quién le
about with
sirve?
the
¿A alguien más que a
communities?
nuestro ego
What
personal?
is the
No, el
importance
conocimiento tiene que
of
ponerse al
that
servicio de las
knowledge?
comunidades.
The knowledge
La
needs to
apuesta de
be
esta
there for the
universidad es ser una
communities.
universidad
The bed of
comprometida,
this
comprometida con
university
quién,
is to be a
no solo con el
university
desarrollo de la
committed
ciencia y el conocimiento,
not
sino con que
only
esa
with the
ciencia y ese
development of
conocimiento
science
se
and
ponga al
knowledge,
servicio de las
but
comunidades.
that
El esfuerzo de
knowledge
formar
is at the
semilleristas, nuevos
service
investigadores para
of the
sembrar las bases
communities,
de un
to
instituto de investigación que
establish the
trabaje en un desarrollo
foundations for an
sostenible y
institute
sustentable
that
para todos
works
y
for
todas.
a
Es como parte
sustainability
de
and
esa siembra que está
sustainable
haciendo la profe Andrea.
development. Is
Sería
that
mucho más
the same
fácil hacer
activity that
artículos simplemente,
Professor Andrea
publicarlos,
is
ir a
doing?
eventos
It would
académicos
be
y
easier
que
to
eso
just
no le
attend
llegue a
to
las comunidades y
academic
que eso no le llegue
events
al
and
Estado para
without
nuevas
going to
políticas
the
públicas. Que sepamos
communities.
que esta
We
transición va a ser
have to know
difícil
that this
porque gran
transition
parte de
is
nuestros
going to
municipios
be
dependen de los
difficult
ingresos de
because
las
the
regalías
vast
y qué va a
part of
pasar
the
con eso, cómo reemplazamos eso
municipalities
y qué va a pasar
depend
con las
on the
fuentes de empleo que
royalties.
para bien tenemos
But
para más la
what will
industria generada,
happen
ahora
with the
se van esas empresas y qué va a pasar con nuestra gente.
jobs
Y no
that
podemos
the
repetir el error
different
nuevamente con
industries
nuevas fuentes, sino
created?
que tenemos
And
que entre todos
we
construir
have
un modelo de
together
economía
to
social
build
y
a
sostenible y
social
sustentable,
economic
porque es
model
que
that
esto
is
ya no es
sustainable
un
and
problema de unos cuantos ambientalistas, es un
because
problema de
it is not
viabilidad
a
para
small
los seres
problem.
humanos.
It's a big
Los
problem for
niveles de aumento
human
de temperatura están por
society.
encima,
The
disparados de las metas más
level of
optimistas de la
temperatures are
COP21.
high,
Para muchos la
are
COP26 no
rising,
funcionó, pero para
and
mí la verdadera
for
COP es
many
este pacto
people,
social que se hace
the
con las comunidades.
real
Es el
social
trabajo que
pact
hacemos
is
día a
the
día entre
one that
todos y
we
todas
do
para
daily
entender
with
que el
the
planeta es
communities
finito,
among us,
que
to
no podemos,
understand
como
that the
sucede en las
earth
series de
is
ciencia ficción,
finite,
pensar que si
and
nos
we
acabamos
cannot think
saldremos a
that
colonizar
if
otros
we
para
end
tratar de
up with
entonces
this,
llegar
we
a
are going to
destruirlos,
go
porque
to another
evidentemente lo que
planet
seríamos
and
sería
destroy them,
una plaga
because
para el universo.
we will be
Creo que la
like a
respuesta
plague
está
for
en
the
y modelos de infraestructura que siempre fueron armónicos con la naturaleza. Tenemos mucho que aprender de ustedes, tienen mucho que enseñarnos. De nuestra parte, y sé que el espíritu de la profesora Andrea y de este proyecto es
And
operar
this is
entre
the
iguales,
spirit of
entender
this
que
project, to
ninguno tiene la respuesta
cooperate and
absoluta y que la
understand that
ciencia,
no
ante
one
todo,
has
y el
the
conocimiento
absolute
tiene
answer,
que
but
ponerse al
science and
servicio de
knowledge
mejorar la calidad de
needs to
vida
be
de todos
there
y todas, sobre
for
todo de
the
quienes estamos en este
societies
territorio.
and to
Así que,
improve
profesora
the
Andrea,
quality of
mi
life. Professor
reconocimiento,
Andrea,
felicitación por
my
ese esfuerzo, por
recognition
eso
to
que está
you.
haciendo. Cuente con
Congratulations
mi
for that
apoyo
effort. You
institucional y
have my
personal cuando
support,
ya nos ha vuelto así
institutionally
como
and
empezó todo hace
personally.
5 años en mi primer
Everything
evento,
has
en mi primera
started
rectoría,
5 years
pues
in my
seguramente este no será el
first
último y en un
period,
futuro,
and
cuando
hopefully this
veamos una
will not be
transición
the last
exitosa,
one. And in a
incluyente, que no
future,
deja a
when
nadie
we
en el
see
camino,
a
pues
successful
seguramente
transition
nadie
that includes
recordará
everyone,
que
maybe
hubo
no
un
one
grupo de
will
profesores,
remember that
profesoras
there
que
were
con
a group
apoyo de
of
cooperación
professors
internacional
that
generaron
with the
capacidades, como es el
cooperation or
espíritu
the
de este
support with
proyecto, para hacer una
cooperation
transición exitosa y un
generated
modelo
this
de
space
desarrollo
to
justo para
create
este país.
a
Muchas gracias
transition
a
that
todos y
is
a todas, gracias por la
successful. Thank
invitación
you
y
very
bienvenidos a
much
la
to
Universidad del Magdalena.
everyone. Thank you for the invitation and welcome to Magdalena University.
Muchas gracias, señor rector. Vamos a darle
Thank you
paso al
very
doctor
much,
Paul Yu,
Dr.
director del
Rector.
proyecto.
Now we are going to have a handover to Mr. Paul Yu.
Hello, everyone. I hope I cannot switch on my camera because someone still has to put me active. So I will still continue to speak, but I think someone still has to allow me to enter the video. So hello, everyone. There you go. Hello, everyone. Lo siento, no hablo español. Entonces, continúa en inglés. So sorry, first of all, for not being able to speak to everyone in Spanish. I will therefore continue in English and I will try not to speak too fast. However, thanks also to all the amazing translators that we have. So I just was able also to follow the speeches before me that were done in Spanish because of the translation that we had. So also let me welcome you all. I cannot be in Colombia at the moment because of COVID and all the restrictions. However, I'm glad to be here at least digitally. And I was also glad to be in Colombia a couple of years ago, visiting also the coal mining sites in Colombia and looking firsthand at what does it really mean for a community when we have coal mining as positive and negative effects that come together with the mining in these regions. And I remember very well that when we were there a couple of years ago, invited from Europe to talk about coal, and I was mentioning that there is the possibility at some point in time that maybe no one will buy any more Colombian coal. That at some point in time, even though the Colombian government still wants to continue selling coal because they need the money, there won't be anyone buying coal anymore. No one from the US and no one from Europe, especially, which are important markets. And I remember that a lot of people were very skeptic at that point and didn't really think that this would be the case. And also I myself assumed that this would only happen maybe in 2030, maybe in 2035 or so. But then as we've seen what happened in the last years, also due to COVID, we've seen that actually the demand for coal was reduced much faster than anticipated. It was also coming with consequences for the regions. Many people lost their jobs. And we've realized what we basically had told them beforehand, that we need plans what to do with the region with respect to renaturation, with respect to alternative jobs, talking to the communities, what do they see as a vision for themselves? And this is something that needs time. And this is something that is not easy. This is not something where we have the solution in Germany that we can export. It is something where also in Germany we are struggling. In Germany, we will do a coal phase out probably by 2030. Like 5 years ago, we were aiming for 2050. Last year, we said 2038. And now the new plan is probably 2030. So we are speeding up this coal phase-out process. And if Germany phases out coal, this means we will not buy any coal anymore from Colombia. Entire Europe phases out coal, the USA phases out coal, and therefore also Colombia has to adapt. Also, we've not only been to Colombia, but I've also been, I think 2 years ago in South Africa, visiting coal mining sites. And coal mining in South Africa is different from Colombia, but it is still more similar compared to German coal mining. So therefore, a couple of years ago, we were discussing already in South Africa, shouldn't we have more projects that enable learning and exchange between South countries? Not always the global North trying to explain to the global South what they should be doing. Not the global North exporting our products to the global South, but the global South trying to find solutions that fit to the global South and that can then be exported to other countries in the global South. So help solutions. And we in the global North can also try to help if it's wanted, whether these financial means, as in this case, also thanks to the DAAD, to the German, to the Auswärtige Amt for financing this project, which is, I think, really great because it will build up capacities in the global South where they are most needed. We, as partners from the global North, also try to help with our network, but we will not try, or we are not able to find solutions for you in the global South because I think you can do this much better. But we are glad to be part of this network. I'm honored to speak here on behalf of many different partners that we have. The Technical University Berlin is just one of them. We have several universities in Berlin, the university in Flensburg, and we have so many partners from the academic side, from NGO side, from industry sides, from local regions. And I think this is something that cannot be stressed enough, that all of us share the same vision of a 100% renewable energy system, of increasing or remaining biodiversity, of conservation of the valuable soil and the valuable prosperity that your countries have and that we want to enrich. We also hope that we can have much more of these meetings in real time, in real places, starting next year in some of the countries, also visiting one another and sharing experiences, because this is even better. But as COVID is what it is, we also still have to try to kick this off with this virtual transition month. There are so many people already working on different topics in our countries that should basically increase cooperation even more. So therefore, I don't have enough time to name all the people behind the scene that enabled all of this. I just want to stress maybe two people. This is Felipe Corral and Paola Yanguas Parra, that were really essential in coming up with this idea, talking with the individual actors, managing this, coordinating this, and kicking all of this up. So this wouldn't have been possible without the two of you from my team, but of course also from the other teams. There are people that were the same important. So therefore, let me thank all of you. I'm really looking forward to this month. I'm looking forward to this event. I'm looking forward to the next at least 4 years, if not even longer, to work together on this important topic. And I think also what we've seen in political debates at COP is only showcasing that what we are doing is exactly what is needed. We need to find fitting solutions for the global South that fit the global South. And therefore, let me end this basically introduction by my side. Once again, sorry for not being able to speak in Spanish, but at least I hope that also we had some people from South Africa maybe joining in, for whom it was easier to understand my English at least. So therefore, thank you once more, and handing over to the next person.
Thank you, Dr. Pao Yun. Thank you for your intervention. Now is the moment of the partner presentation. We are going to start with Paola Yanguas, representative for Berlin Technological University, who is joining through Zoom.
wonderful transnational center for just transitions in energy, climate, and sustainability. I will try to provide you a brief overview of what this consortium and this center is about, but before I want an idea of the center's protagonists, which are mainly based in Germany, South Africa, and Colombia at Technische Universität Berlin, Europa Universität Flensburg in South Africa, at the University of Cape Town, and in Colombia at Universidad del Magdalena and Universidad Nacional de Colombia. We also have a wider network of German universities in Lüneburg and in Berlin, and a larger network of extra academic partners and other academic partners across Latin America, Africa, and other countries as well. TRAJECTS is a center that intends to work on the key topics of today. One of them is that of transitions in the realm of energy, climate, and sustainability. As the previous speakers already said, the idea of this center was to offer an academic exchange that also transcends the academic sphere. So universities not only talking to each other, but talking to allies and partners in other latitudes, in other sectors, and especially outside of the urban centers and more in the territories that are affected by these transitions. So what do we talk about when we talk about transitions? This center is the only center from the four that were selected by the German Academic Exchange Service, DAAD, to work on climate mitigation. So the main focus of our center lies in finding ways to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in order to reduce the impact that we're having on climate change and global warming. Other than climate adaptation, which refers to adapting to this changing climate, we're doing the best to build knowledge and networks in order to reduce it or avoid it. So what are our objectives and focus areas? So our center aims to support and strengthen transcontinental exchange, research, and education on transitions towards a sustainable future, focusing on two key topics. On one hand, the shift towards a post-fossil world. That means a shift towards a world where coal is no longer extracted or burned for power generation or for other industrial uses, but also oil, methane gas, amongst other fossil energy carriers. At the same time, it wants to link this shift in the energy system with fundamental shifts in land use and ecosystem protection that are necessary in order to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions that are leading to the climate crisis we're currently in. And these two topics we're approaching from two perspectives that are key for transformation studies and for transitions. On one hand, innovation, which refers to new, innovative, better ways of doing, of organizing, of producing, such as carbon-free mobility, decentralized renewables, but also agroecology, strategic ecosystem restoration, amongst others. But also, and most importantly, because it sometimes is left out of public discussion and academic research, exnovation, which refers to the deliberate phase out of certain ways of doing things, policies, technologies, energy carriers. So here we mean, for example, the deliberate phase out of fossil fuel extraction, such as coal, of the internal combustion engine as a polluting technology that has no future in a world that wants to avoid the climate crisis, or on the land use realm, the deliberate reduction of large-scale expansion of agricultural frontier, of deforestation, or the reduction of monocultures, amongst others. With this, I give the floor to Paola, which will share how this consortium intends to proceed with the different activities.
Thank you, Felipe. So we don't have too much time to talk in detail about the different measures, about the different plans we have for TRAJECTS. Therefore, I invite you to contact us bilaterally or check out our website and our social media to find out more about the activities. But I wanted to highlight a few key measures and activities that TRAJECTS will be carry on in the next 5 years, in which most of you, hopefully, attending this launch event will be able to participate in one or another way. Hara will tell us more about it, but we're going to reactivate two master programs that were sleeping at the University of Cape Town that deal precisely with the sustainability transitions topic. On top of that, programs that are already active in Colombia as well, both PhD and master programs will be having a number of scholarships for students to be able to carry on their studies, both in Colombia and South Africa. On top of that, we'll have a large amount, around 100 smaller scholarships, and these scholarships are meant to support junior and senior research stays in our different network partners, which you saw in the slide that Felipe was showing. They're around the world. And the idea is that students and young and senior practitioners can go to their research stays financed by TRAJECTS in these institutions to bring forward the exchange, cooperation, and research on those sustainability transition topics. Then we have this large amount of activities, of which the Sustainability Transition Month is the first one that we're doing, which is a large amount of dialogues, teaching, and exchange formats, in which we hope that the center does not stay in the academic sphere only, but that this conversation, this dialogue, and this exchange is also open to the civil society, to communities, to policymakers, and any other actor that could be relevant or interested in the discussions around sustainability transitions. On top of that, we'll have a number of solar panels installed in our Global South partner universities, specifically in Universidad del Magdalena and UCT in Cape Town. I'm not going to go into too much detail. You can see it in the right about the key activities for 2001, but just to tell you, we are precisely in the Sustainability Transitions Month where a lot of this exchange and dialogue events are going to happen. And just to give you a more detailed overview, next slide please, of how big and how diverse our scholarships program is. I'll give you the examples of this year, which is the first year. So TRAJECTS started roughly in May, June. And what we've done so far, or we have achieved so far in terms of the scholarships, which will continue in the next years. So the junior research stays, as I said, those are 2 to 3 month internships or research stays out at our network partners. We are supporting 25 this year, and we hope to give a good impulse into the labor market for young career students and professionals. And as you can see, this is just this graph on the right. There's high interest from all sorts of levels of education, from all sorts of backgrounds. We had more than 90 applications, so people are really interested in these scholarships. We'll be having around 100 of those scholarships in the duration of TRAJECTS until 2025. Next one, please. And for the PhD and master scholarships, the master applications closed last Friday. So for this year, the opportunity is not available anymore, but for PhD scholarships, our application is still open until the end of the month. And we have gotten so far very good outreach as well. As you see, this is how it closed on Friday. The master applications, we had more than 100 people interested there. Not that many scholarships. We have 10 for this year for masters. We hope to give 30 of them in 3 cohorts. For PhDs, as I say, the call is still open until the end of the month, but we will be giving out 16 scholarships for PhD students for fully funded PhD programs, so 3 years, and for 2 cohorts. So that is just a small invitation if you know someone that can be interested in our scholarships, be it for junior research days, be it for master scholarships, or be it for PhD scholarships, that you stay tuned in our communication channels so that you don't miss out, and this can go as far as we can in terms of the scholarships. And yeah, having said that, I just wanted to, next slide, I think, please. Yeah, to invite you to look, because I'm not going to go into too much detail. There's the QR code and there's the link there, to invite you to look through the program of the Sustainability Transition Months. We have several events, including Sustainability Transition Dialogues and some joint virtual lectures that are more targeted to students, but that could still allow some participation from interested students, practitioners, and so on and so forth, and to engage with TRAJECTS. We're always happy to talk to you. Having said that, I'm gonna give it over to the academic coordinator of the TRAJECTS Center at Universidad Nacional de Colombia, Natalie. Thank you so much. Very nice to be here. Greetings from Berlin.
Muchísimas gracias a los representantes de la Universidad Tecnológica de Berlín, Felipe Corral y la magíster
University, Felipe Corral, and Magister Paola Yanguas. Now, Natalie Diaz, Academic Director from TRAJECTS at the National University from Colombia. The floor is yours. Good morning to everyone, especially to those who are here today at the auditorium from Magdalena University. Thank you very much. To all the representatives from the communities that somehow have been linked, whether with TRAJECTS by itself or through the research processes and development processes that the university has been doing on the head of Cardoso professor from the Environmental Institute of Colombia National University at Bogota. It is a great pleasure for me to be here today and getting to know you and trying to create links that are more direct and real with you. You are the people that we expect TRAJECTS can have a great impact, and we hope you have a link in the institutional academic life. Those are the expectations, that you have an interest, that you have to take those sustainability transitions to your territories. The IDEA is an interdisciplinary entity and interfaculties and interlocations. What does it mean? Is that even though the main location is in Bogota, it has presence in other faculties at a national level, especially in Palmira and Manizales. It was founded with the interest to link an environmental perspective from the National University from Colombia. 30 years ago, the National University has been thinking about the importance of environment and to start combining the academic area or the academic part and going outside of the academic articles and be more linked with the territories and the communities initiatives as well. The act of the IDEA is based on three main principles or pillars that are extension, research, and education. At the beginning, research was what moved us and continues doing that. That research part is a horizontal research, a participative one in which we not only talk about experts, the professionals who are part of the institution, we don't only talk about how things need to be done, but we work along with the communities and also the territories where there are no communities, but there are representatives to start to generate a community and be part of that community in different processes related to the sustainable development. The second one is extension, in where we have processes that are more linked to show the research methodologies that we work in the institution to those who are interested to acquire them through different type of courses, training activities in companies. And the last one, education, it's a component in which we have the Master of Environment and Development, the doctorate that we also have that goes along with the engineer faculty from the university. And we also support the specialization in tourism. All this is for what? Well, it is to favor the knowledge of environment from IDEA, and according to the principles from Augusto Angel Maya, we consider that it is a reality in which we link both the ecosystem with the culture as well. How the way people live it, the people in the territories, is an articulation. It's not that the nature is separated from society. In that way, it's how we are able, or we try to enhance the life quality of everyone through generating the environmental thought and to enhance these capabilities. Here you have at least some of the activities. There are many activities missing, and activities related to research, education, and extension. For example, we have a magazine that is open to publishers, and we expect that this could be also a platform for the development or the develop process. We generate knowledge between the communities and the academy. And it is a recognition that knowledge, both parts are important. There's no one that is better than the other. And most specifically, the idea within TRAJECTS, it is important. Basically, their research lines are agro-environmental studies, in which agroecology and the appropriation and understanding and generation of new technologies to generate processes that are more sustainable in terms of the favor of protection of the different natural ecosystems that we still have in the country. That has been one of the main axes: economy, environment, and development. That is very linked to understand the ways that are not new, but to recognize these ways of economy, solidarity economy, that have been worked historically, but haven't been recognized for the institutions or the police makers. And that is what has led us to the system that we currently have, an extraction neoliberalism system grown without limits. So this research line is to try to think, how can we rescue or generate other relations that come from the communities? The other research line is environment management, and it's very wide, and it includes analysis of other type of relationship, exploitation with the territory that needs to be analyzed in terms of the environmental impact that they produce. So the main part or the main point of this are the study. And the last one is ecology, environmental and territory conflict that is coordinated by TRAJECTS director from IDEA, which is Professor Maria del Rosario Rojas Robles. She apologizes for not being here today, but she expects to join you in another opportunity. But the main product of this research line has the Observatory of Environmental Conflicts, which is a platform that any of us can access and see the different conflict that exists in the country. And it is a platform that is being feed continuously. And also you can include in this platform the territories from your areas, and many conflicts have been analyzed, but we know that the information is continuously being added. So the people who can put more information are the people who live in those conflicts. The idea of this platform is to inform what are the problems that exist. Second, to generate awareness of what is the way all these conflicts are affecting the ways of living that do not respect and do not work together along the key values with the communities that have always lived there. And third, it is to serve as a repository, as a source, so anyone can grab information validated by the academy, can be useful for the defense of the territories as well. So you can write on the research tab, you can write OCA, IDEA, National University, and you can go to that map, and there we have many layers and metadata data, and there is a lot of information that you can look. So how is the IDEA connected to TRAJECTS? Well, mainly through innovation. When Paola and Felipe were mentioning what are all the TRAJECT axes, and the two main concepts, which are innovation and innovation, those are the most important. You are doing the first one because you are doing that when you generate processes, when you are part of manifestations and you organize everything, and you invited us to support you to change the public policies. And what we are providing is that innovation part that will enhance the mitigation of climate change, coming from the different results of the different research lines. And also, this research and the results can be adapted to the territories according to the knowledge that you have from the place you live. So we just provide some strategies that could work, mainly those that are linked to the protection of ecosystems and the management of the earth. Redefine the use of the soils, for example. It is about recognizing the best way to be linked with the different systems, the water, for example, the entire system of these territories to detain the loss of biodiversity through the promotion of sustainable practices, do holistic analysis, and understand how the lands are being used, and starting with the micro and going to the bigger part, understanding the institutions, the enterprises, and analyze the paradigm that involve the activities related with it's important to understand how these relationships, the economic relationships, are being held around the world. IDEA is a group of academic, professional people, that's the base, around 20 people that within TRAJECTS, we are dedicated 100%. 3 people are dedicated 100%. Angie Saboya, Professor Rosario. I also part of that. And we have the support of many other people. And agroecologic Dr. Alexandra, who is also here joining us. Hello. And also Mariana Pinzon, who is leading the communication team. I want to thank her very much because she has supported us very much. But the main part and the intention of these activities that all of you are also or can also be part of IDEA and also through TRAJECTS network and start feeling that we are only a big one team. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Natalie. Now, Haro Bonblantis from Cape Town University is going to go next, and he's joining through Zoom platform.
Hello, good morning to Colombia. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Wonderful.
We can hear you.
I've prepared a slide that I just want to share. Excuse me for a moment. Right, to the audience, just so that you can maybe locate where I'm speaking from. I'm in Cape Town at the southern tip of the African continent. I work at the University of Cape Town. I'm a professor in chemical engineering with long-standing research interests in sustainable development. And it is a pleasure to be present at this launch of the dialogue, the sustainability dialogues with you today. The picture shows the Cape of Good Hope, Cabo de Buena Esperanza, I believe in Spanish. And we're about 50 kilometers to the north of that, sitting almost at the foot of Table Mountain in the city of Cape Town, a city of 4 million people. And our role in TRAJECTS, very briefly, is to bring in another important country that has to play a role in the global transition in the mitigation of climate change. South Africa has the most coal-intensive economy in the G20 group of nations. We're, like Colombia, a very large coal exporter, I think ranked at number 5 in the coal exporting countries historically to Europe. But our markets these days are South Asia, so India, Pakistan, and countries like that. And so we have a slightly different dynamic to Colombia in terms of the future of coal exports, which look to be strong for a while as India struggles to really generate pace in its transition and is a massive developing economy and client of ours. But change is definitely coming also domestically, where we are very, very dependent on coal and will be needing to decommission at least half the current coal-fired power stations within the next decade because they are very old and it is simply cheaper to replace them with renewables. And of course, it's the right thing to do. But there is a very big social and economic transition that needs to happen, and there's high recognition that this must be a just transition in a country that is a very unjust country with a historical legacy of discrimination and a very, very high inequality in the population. So the University of Cape Town is one of the core project partners in TRAJECTS. Our role will be to do postgraduate training to support the upcoming transition, and to do that working with non-academic partners in a transdisciplinary mode of research and education, producing knowledge that is socially robust. And our expectations really of working in projects and working with partners in Colombia is that this will give us an opportunity to build Southern theory for this just transition. So we look very much forward to the exchanges with the various Colombian partners on how justice is interpreted, how the transition is playing out for you, but also what the ecological dimensions and innovations are to restore nature, to restore the ecosystems around the coal mining areas, and how the human and social interactions around that will play out. And of course, the connection to the global north and to Germany in particular is we view that as an opportunity to engage on what sustainable development really means in the global context, where the historical relationship between Europe and Germany in particular and Southern Africa has been one of viewing this part of the world as a supplier of resources. And I can say that from a first-hand experience. I grew up in Namibia, in a coastal town called Swakopmund, and the only sizable economic activity there at the time was a uranium mine. So I've not grown up around a coal mining area, but I know how the earth is ripped up to get resources out to supply into Europe. And right now we're grappling with this phenomenon that we're seeing a very big interest of European finance into hydrogen production, green hydrogen production, so we can export our sunshine in the form of hydrogen to Europe. And so this theme of what do we export and how do we engage with the global north? Are we just a provider of resources, brown or green? And how do we change that relationship into one that gives us sustainable development? I've been asked to think what lessons can be learned from the South African experience for you over in Colombia. I'm not sure I'm positioned at the start of this collaboration to try to tell you any lessons. I wanted to postpone that for when we have another chance to meet, once I've learned a bit more about my audience over in Colombia and what your questions are and interests. And I think with that, I'll leave it as a brief introduction to us, the partner from South Africa in TRAJECTS. Thank you very much.
Doctor Harrow, muchísimas gracias por su intervención. A continuación daremos paso a la socialización y lanzamiento del
talk about the launch of the Sustainability Transition Month under TRAJECTS manager in Magdalena. Good morning to everyone and to all the attendees. Good morning to the Dean, Humanities Dean from National University and Technical University who joined us here today. Good morning to everyone. Right now, I'm going to introduce what we are launching, the Sustainability Transitions Month. There is a vast majority of events. And the first event after this big launch of Sustainability Transitions Month in TRAJECTS Center, we are going to have a mobile school, and we are going to have a series of activities. And after this event, we are going to have some dialogues, and I'm going to explain very briefly, due to the matter of time, event by event of what are we going to have in this Sustainability Transitions Month. I have here, okay. As I was mentioning, here we have the general activities for the month. Today, we start today, and we are going to finish on December 14th. There are 2 face-to-face events, and the other ones are virtual events. In a moment, I'm going to explain what are the in-person events. This is the first one, which is the mobile school here in Magdalena University, and the other ones are virtual, and I'm going to show you in a moment where you can log in. There are 2 websites, one in English and another in Spanish, in which you can consult all the activities and do the registration process, and you can give it a look and see what event interests you. This is the website in Spanish. You can find it at the IDEA website, and we also have the English website, and you can find it from TRAJECTS website. We are going to talk now about each event. I'm going to present each event. This is the first mobile school of sustainability transition. Welcome to all the people here in the auditorium. And I want to thank to everyone, all the people in the logistics communities, everyone that is there behind trying to organize these activities. And today we are going to go and see your investigations, all those researchers and the investigations that you have done here in the territory. We have a series of activities, as I mentioned, after this launch and this streaming and virtual part, or in person. We have some activities here at the auditorium, and with the people that are here in the auditorium, we are going to walk around the campus. We are going to see projects from master's students in projects in renewable energy and the infrastructure that Magdalena University has using renewable energies. In the afternoon, along with Otto, Mr. Otto from Sintra de l'École, he is going to teach us or present to us a workshop where does the energy of the region comes from. Then the students from the hotbed comes and they will give their presentation in a conference format, and they are going to interact with the communities, sharing what are the topics of interest of their research. Then we are going to have a creative workshop, and we are going to put together art and writing and talk about what are transitions, how can we understand transition, energetic transitions, just transitions, what are these? So we are going to start doing a creative homework or a creative task in the framework of the transitions. After this school from today, we are going to meet again on the 19th and 20th, November 19th, 20th at Jauricoagua, and we are going to do a second mobile school with the communities of the territory, and we are going to be in a farm next to the mining area, and we are going to talk about agroecology in transition and how can we understand these new possibilities for transitions, but in the field. From those in-person activities, then we are going to have the dialogues. We have called them dialogues because we are going to start having a series of virtual events to talk, to have a dialogue with different sectors. The first dialogue, it is about the challenges of the closing of mines and also jobs in the Colombian Caribbean. We are organizing this, and this will happen on November 11th. You can sign in the website, and you have the link to sign up on the website that I showed previously. And this dialogue is divided in 3 parts. The first panel, that the researchers are going to present. We are going to talk about some questions to have a dialogue with the researchers. Then in the second panel, we are going to talk with the government and the communities. We have invited the municipality of Barrancas and Jaguabilincos. And in the third panel, we are going to talk with the communities. There is a second dialogue that is organized by the IDEA, the National University, and the second is Agroecology and Energetic Transition in Colombia, and it's organized by Cindy Cordova Vargas, professor, teacher from Magdalena University. And the Government Environmental Institute will also be part of it. And we are going to have some guests that are going to talk about this opportunity of agroecology in the energetic transition. There is a third dialogue called Alternative Opportunities of Job for the Transition of Coal in Mpumalanga. I hope I pronounced it well. It is organized by Cape Town University, and this will be on November 18th from 8 to 10 a.m. Colombian time. It is important to clarify that all these virtual events will have simultaneous translation, and you can listen to it in any language. Then we will have the fourth dialogue, which is the elimination of coal in Germany, challenges and lessons learned. This will be on November from 8 to 10 Colombian time. We will count with the participation of Colexi group organized by the Technical University of Berlin, Paula Janovas, who just talked, and other research are going to be part of this dialogue organized by Technical University at Berlin. After the dialogues, we are going to have a third activity that are joint classes. We are universities at a consortium, and from these in-person and virtual events, like the school, model school, and the dialogues with different actors, we started an exchange of knowledge through virtual classes. So we are going to give a joint virtual class about mining, energetic transition, and environmental conflict with differential approach. And there we are going to be talking, where I'm going to be part as well. We are going to be Jessie Burton from Cape Town University in South Africa, and there will be an important exchange between Magdalena University, Cape Town University from South Africa, and Technical University from Berlin, along with Unal University, all together in one class, exchanging knowledge about mining, energetic transition, and environmental context with differential approach. We have a second joint class, which is energetic transitions in Latin America and Europe, comparative point of view. This virtual class is going to be an exchange between National University from Colombia and the project director Paul Jung. And in this class, it is going to be very interesting because Carmenza Castiblanco will be there along with the project director Paul Jung, talking about energetic transitions in Latin America and Europe, providing a global context about energetic transitions. And last, we are going to have a virtual class in which I'm going to be part 2, and it's to talk about the debate between environmental economy and ecological economy, especially in these transitions. This will be on December 14th, and we are going to be sharing with Mariana Bloom, professor from we are running out of time, so I'm going to stop here. Please follow our social media. There is a second event, and now I am going to hand the floor to Maria Angelica. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Andrea. And now we are going to start of the conversatory, the impact of the transitions. Álvaro Castro from Jaguar Ibérico and Ms. Angélica Ortiz, representative of Ituana clan, are invited. In this conversatory, Pablo Vera Salazar, rector of Magdalena University, Andrea Cardoso, director of TRAJECTS, Álvaro Castro, social leader from Aguas Ibérico, Mrs. Angélica Ortiz, representative of Clan Ituana from Fuerzas Wayuu, anthropologist, magister from TRAJECTS, Natalie Diaz, Magister, Academic Director of National University of Colombia, and Edgar Villegas Iriarte, Dean of Humanities, are going to be part of this conversatory. Good morning to everyone. I am pleased to be able to see this auditorium full, and especially doing this transition. The transition starts here. The message is that now that we invite the communities to be part of here, with this activity, these are part of the transition. We want climate and energetic transitions that are just, but along with the help of all the people that are here, the dean, the professors, and the participation of National University and the International Allied University. We want these transitions to have the opportunity to be able to have the communities. At first, you saw the panel with the academy, but now it is imposed by the universities here in Colombia. We want to foster this participation, inclusive, and that's why we included this message, to have the participation of these communities. Today in this conversatory, I am going to be the one who is going to be asking the questions about the transitions. And we are going to start with the questions for the academy. The first question goes to the representative of the university, in this case, Pablo Vera Salazar, rector. Rector, what or how the research that has been or does in the universities can take into account the local and what is being doing at a global level to generate those transitions? How does the investigation can provide to that local development and take into account the global? How do you think that can have an impact, and how does the universities can do that? Thank you very much, Professor. Hi to the colleagues here at the panel. I'm going to mention 3 key points that can help. One, it is important to do the research in context. There are things that I don't understand. How peace centers in other countries that have never had conflicts come to Colombia to explain how to overcome the conflict. That is a paradox. So involving the institutions in the territory is important, not only in Bogota and their other locations, but it is important to understand that the country has different significances. It's not the same point of view from Cesar, La Guajira, El Magdalena in comparison with Bogota or the Caribbean, for example. So first, we have to have the local point of view, but at the same time, something that enables the knowledge and the dialogue. Not from a colonial point of view that here we are the ones who know, and the communities have also the one who know. Those that are in the communities need to understand that there are other ways to link the knowledge. And also local networks allow you to be part and half of the information. But if a particular community finds a way to manage the different resources, that doesn't mean that the solutions are not going to be able to be replied in other contexts. Also, I think that identifying good practices of the traditional knowledge is not only the adaptation of the climate change, but it is important to start putting those effects. How many good practices before the certifications exist nowadays? I think we have to go back to the roots and start learning, but also help the communities to learn other things that were used but now don't make any sense. For example, to burn different areas to plant other things, because nowadays those are practices that are not harmonious with the territories. Same thing happens with the fishing. We live in that balance of thinking that it is not from the academy that we have all the answers, but it's not that everything that is done from the communities, it is done because it's done well because it has always been like that. I think we have to be open to that dialogue. And in third place, I think it is really important what we do here. Give the voice to those who don't have it. Provide or give the voice to the community. So ask them, what do you have to say? Stop researching the territories as if we were looking from a big microscope in which the communities are tiny ants they have been studied and the scientists give names. That means that the societies are active part of the territories. And for any university means that we have to put the egos aside because we are not the origin of the knowledge. There are other ways of knowing things outside from the university. The advances of these transitions are not occurring from or starting from the universities. And I think that the balance from understanding that the knowledge of the university is a codified knowledge based on a colonial way of thinking, we have to think that very constantly. Yes, there are other science paradigms, and we have to refine them to provide and give the voice to communities. We have to learn from the other institutions in the world and understanding that the human resource, the laboratory resources, sometimes we don't have it, and that's fine because we are just only are at a different level of development. But one part that globalization has is to have access to what others have and shorten the process of learning and understanding what other people and the collaboration that exists, how can influence us positively in different areas here in Colombia, in Cesara, Guajira, and things that have been done here in Magdalena, how can be applied in South Africa. And the management of biodiversity context for the use of flora, of the soil, corruption, violence. And I mean, the things that affect us are common. So the answer to those solutions needs to be built understanding that everything needs to be from the context without people from different universities that come to Colombia when they tell us how to manage or handle conflict when their countries have never had conflict. They have to understand that, but we also have to talk with our people, with our communities, because it is not the same thing that what happens in Dinamarca in Spanish or Denmark, and it's not the same what could happen here in Colombia in Cundinamarca. Very similar names. So in terminal, we have challenges in common, but we also have answers. And how can we understand those challenges? And the key part is to give the voice to those who haven't had the voice. And also the universities generate synergy and be able to find answers that we know that are not going to be useful. The universities think that we have absolute answers. If something didn't happen or didn't occur in the right way, we can do other things. The transition needs to work. That is my answer. If not, I get too excited. Thank you. Now the question is for Angelica and Alvaro, who represent the communities. What do you expect, or the communities and the actors in the territories, from those territories? What learnings do you think the investigations can give? And from your point of view, how can those transitions be sustainable? Angelica, the floor is yours. My name is Angelica Ortiz. I'm part of Fuerza de Mujeres Wayuu movement, or Wayuu movement force, and we have been talking about this for quite some time. We have been talking about the mining closing plants, and that has been scandalous. At Prodeco, Cesar, they gave us an example, and we have to think about that just transition, starting for the employers that the company have. But we also have to, we have seen that things have failed, because when there are many communities that have been resisting in the territory for the different threats and other difficulties that we have, this sustainable transition needs to be from the hands of the community, a horizontal dialogue. Everything has been vertical, and we are at the bottom, and the companies, universities, and I apologize, but they have always been above the communities and above all the ancestor knowledge that we have. And sadly, things have not been working in the right way. With Professor Andrea, we have been in this journey. I am really thankful for Magdalena University to start with this process, because as a community, it has been really difficult. And finding universities that work along with the communities and that we work together hand by hand has been really helpful. And we hope that these sustainability transitions are in the best way possible, and not like it's being done right now. At Guajira, there are over 80 projects, eolic projects, and right now, the previous consultation has not been doing as the IoT agreement establishes. And this is a business more than something that generates more help. It's more like an administrative process. And in terms of the community, in less than 1 year, while the pandemic was there, the communities were quiet, with a lot of hunger and thirsty without resources, because we live day by day while the companies arrive to the places to do the previous consultations that are not doing well. And they negotiate the power with the hunger and the other aspect. This is very delicate. Nowadays, we find other wars that are occurring due to that transition, because it hasn't been done with the communities. It hasn't been developed with the main actors or the key actors, and not even they have asked how they wanted to do. It has been something established, force. I had the opportunity to be in Germany, and we see how the sustainability energy is managed in another way, above the roof of the houses, of the different houses, and also eolic energy, but not in the way that is being projected, wind energy, but not in the way it's going to be, or it's planned to be here in La Guajira Colombiana. Right now, we are working with Cerrejón Syndicate since 2012, because everyone was working on their own, Afro communities, farmers in another way. But we said, this is not the way we are going to obtain or get a benefit to us. We have to work together. And in that process today, we can say that we are working along with Cerrejón, because the syndicate of Cerrejón, because here those are employees from the communities, they are employees from the different towns, but also, sadly, we have an economy that has focused only on coal. And these are not only 2 or 3 years, they're over a little over 40 years in which the economy change. And now is something that if the mines don't work, you can see a abrupt change. So right now we are inviting to that transition and see what are those roles that are going to, that those employees are going to be part of. We cannot be selfish and think only about us. We are also thinking in what is going to happen with those families in which their economy depends on the extraction of coal. So from the university, we hope that this job that just started for the sustainability transition starts in a vertical way. Sorry, I apologize. Horizontal and forget the vertical. Those schemes in which the wise person is the one who has the title and the one who needs to be respected, sadly, that is what we see in the communities, and I apologize for the expression. When the one from outside, the European guy, comes here, is that person who we believe, because that's what we grew up thinking. So we display the ancestral knowledge, and those millenary knowledge, we put it aside, and I will just do whatever the doctor says I have to do. So the invitation here is to use the energy in a reasonable way. Sometimes we just waste it. And Rector, I invite you to think, because look how many light bulbs are turned right now here at the auditorium. So we see that everywhere. So we think that with more lights, the environment will look nice, or the place it will look nicer. So thank you for the opportunity. Thank you very much. And the same question for Dr. Alvaro. Good morning to everyone, Rector. Before starting with my answer, I want to thank you and Dr. Andrea and Carlos. In our territory, a few years ago, we started on trust process to all the visits, because we had many visits from universities, NGOs, and in the end, the colleagues from the syndicate, we decided to not provide any more information. But when Carlos came, we received him, and today I recognize that we act in a very strong way, but he insisted, the professor insisted, they insisted, and today on behalf of the Hawas, we want to thank you, because the university has taken very seriously our territory. Thank you, Professor Andrea. The point of view of our point of view has been really complicated. We were never ready for the mining issue, and the multinational that arrived to the Hawas, they took advantage of the communities, the lack of knowledge of all these issues. They took advantage, and now when the mines are being closed, we have been learning and we have been training ourselves, but we did it very late because, but I was saying that thankfully someone from the university came and we started from scratch. That has been our experience. The lack of knowledge took us for process to, after 25 of working at the mine, of human rights violation, environmental deforestation, there are no commitments through the Colombian state about the compensations they have to give to the communities. They haven't presented or a close plan for the mines. We learned that as in an empirical way while we were defending the territories. What can we suggest today in order to advance in the process that this project pretends? There is nothing else to do in the good way in relation to the post-mining, but we are in the agri area, and we have realized that our territory has tourist potential, for agriculture as well. And that is very important. Now, Victoria has a very beautiful process through JSON, and I think that we would have to strengthen all these processes in order for us to go back to that type of vocation. We also consider that these type of initiatives, how the syndicates and institutions can join us. The thing is, like, when the national plans are being developed, they go in an articulated way, one-to-one, and you see and copy and paste the development plans, and that doesn't allow the mandatories that are working at that time to move forward in what they want or what the communities want. The majors are thinking more about infrastructure, doing other type of trips. But look at the national budget in relation to the budget in the agricultural area. They are very left behind. And when the mandatories are in those positions, they tell us to the communities, we are going to invest in the rural area. We are going to do some roads and improve the processes of the products to the urban areas. But in the end, time passes and the processes continue advancing. Look, the Aguas de Virica doesn't have potable water. And in the last 13 years, we have had 1.5 billion. Last week, I had the opportunity to go to the aqueduct, and it was very sad to see how the water is being potabilized around the treatment plant. But once it goes to the urban area, it gets contaminated. There is the result of a plan to determine what is the amount of pipes that need to be changed. I have to say that because we are requesting to the major to provide them the resources, the sewerage plans to change it. We ask to the academy to help us train our farmers, help us build associations and companies so we can have a vision of water without coal. That it is our idea and what we have gathered as communities. And see Aguas without coal, we see that we have that potential. Agricultural, tourism, we have hydric resources, and there are so many things that we could do. So I would like that from the academy, from your side, to be able to train our territory so we can face our own reality, because right now the mining issue died there. There are around 50% of the businesses closed. Everything that existed while there was exploitation, it just closed. The arrival of people from other countries is something that is not happening. We are facing a very difficult situation. So right now, we are sending an SOS to all the identities. And if the Magdalena University with this project want to help us, they are more than welcome. You have been more than welcome since 2 years ago. And I think Carlos arrived 2 years ago, but maybe 1 year later is when we started to know the commitment from the university. And right now there is a very good job that you have been doing. And we want to continue having your support. And if you allow me, I want to look, I was talking to Angelica, our leader. I was writing here. I'm continue learning. I learn from everybody. We don't have to talk only about transition. In the practice, we experience a traumatic transition because it's leaving terrible results. You don't have an aqueduct, you don't have roads, you remain with the worst part of the first development model of development that didn't include it. You asked me when I'm going to the Guajira. And I always get asked when I'm going to go and visit, but the university was never part of the Magdalena municipalities. Now we are moving forward into that process. And now I'm going to say that maybe we can add capabilities, even though knowing that the project is not, the objective of the project is not that, but we could include the communities, Cesar, La Guajira, and the ones who have to fund that are the companies that were there. And that reconversion transformational plan needs to recover and also train people so they can are part. If we are going to produce solar energy, let's have people from the communities working on that, and not only use the funding from foreigners and they become energy to work or to send to another places while our local communities don't have. Dean Professor Andrea, the project did the most important, which is created that bond with the community. So as university, we are going to help you set that plan of transformation, retransformation, and we are going to help you to see who can support and fund that so you can recover productive vocation, so you can have the dignity that you need to do the social economic. So that is our proposal, and you can count on that. Natalie, we and Andrea and Roberto, professors. For those who don't know energetic transition, what is a just energetic transition? How can we define it for those who are watching us through the different platforms? How can we identify them? Natalie, Professor Andrea, and Professor Roberto. Thank you very much. Before I answer that question, I wanted to mention something that I cannot talk about or on behalf from National University of Colombia, but it is true that from IDEA, which is a tiny part of the universe of National University, we do have the intention to connect with the different faculties, especially with La Paz, that La Paz campus, who is being part of Cesar department or state, in order to generate a stronger links, because from Bogota, we know that the distance, not only in terms of geographical aspect, but also in terms of the way of doing things, it is very wide. And that is the commitment that we are starting right now. Of course, TRAJECTS, it's a very young project, and that is one of the expectations that we have. I cannot tell you in how long, but we expect to start taking those steps. And I hope we do that very soon. In terms or in relation with your question of what transitions, just sustainable transitions, what is that? Well, that is a lot of things, because each word involves many aspects to be taken into account, but we have to base on the definition of just. These transitions need to involve different dimensions, and specifically in the cultural and social dimensions, so they can be just. This implies that they are not only transitions in economical terms, or stop using one thing and using other without taking into account what happens in each one of the territories, or the way of living of the people living in the territories. They need to be involved to see who are they. It is not like the people who lives in the territory are passive actors or victims, but they are co-participants and also the main characters, So the transition can be there too. I don't have anything else to say, but I would go along with what Angelica mentioned. That is a just transition. The transition that involves the communities. Sustainability, those are transitions that sometimes I think that these sustainability transitions that rather going forward in terms of development, those are transitions to look a little bit back and remember what things we used to do that were better than what we currently are. For example, before we didn't have plastic. And right now we have a plastic that is drowning the country. The transition is like to unlearn. And now with the technology and then now the knowledge that we have, scientific knowledge that we have, how that we used to do was fine. How can we do it even better today and avoid things that are extinguishing us as a species? Because the lack or the loss of biodiversity is ginormous, and it is important to think in those not human communities, but in the end, what's happening is affecting everyone. And we are really concerned because that denies the opportunity to continue surviving in this country with an adequate opportunity of life. Maybe there will be a species that will survive to the conditions, unbalanced conditions that we are having, but in the long term, we are not going to be able to survive. I will continue and go and talk a little bit more about that. Transitions. I think it is really nice that from TRAJECTS we call it transitions because there is not only one transition, there are diverse, different transitions. In fact, when we call it sustainable, this is a call to respect the limits of the earth. There is a discussion at a global level, especially with the COP26, and how can we respect those limits? There are economical crisis limits, and I hope that my students from ecological economy who are here online and my students, they wonder about the development and the economical crisis because they don't take into account the limits of the earth. So when we call them sustainability transitions, it is a call that those transitions need to take into account the limits of the planet in terms of leaving the fossil on the earth. And here, the rector was telling me about John Martin Salier, and he, at a virtual forum, he was saying that what we are living right now in the world is that, and what also Angelica mentioned from the Guajira territory, is that big renewable projects are coming. Wind and sun projects are arriving, big multinationals, and that's what we see at a local level is a sum of energies. We need energies and a high demand, but there is no a change from the bottom. Why do we need to change? And what sectors is where the change is going? The energy that is produced in the Caribbean, who are the sectors that consumes them? What is the industry that is here in the Caribbean? The biggest industry that we have is the mining one. So we are producing energy for the mining companies to export coal. So why is the reason we found or we produce energy? My tutor was calling that the poly love. And there is a poly love, energetic poly love, but there is no an internal change of the reason why do we need the energy. So we have to rethink about the transition. And I also recall what Angelica mentioned. We have to go back and respect that ancestral knowledge. Why do we need this fund so much? But sometimes I just want to throw it away, not depend anymore on these. So do we actually need all these in order to continue living? How can we rethink our life, and how can we start living well? And living well in terms of a good living, a cosmo life that will make us happy, because sometimes the cell phone ends up being more stressful, and it is not something that provides well-being for everyone. That's why I say that there are transitions. There are transitions from different pluriverses. I really like the community initiatives. They teach us a lot. There are initiatives from the ecofeminisms to put life in the center. And that was the call that the pandemic gave us. I'm going to hand the floor to my colleague Roberto, because as an anthropologist, he has that vision of transition, and that makes us think. That makes us think as economists who we only think about growth and economy. Thank you, Andre. Well, the colleagues are really they already mentioned many things I was going to say, but I'm going to try to answer the question supporting from an exercise that a Spanish anthropologist did. It is called Gallo Herrera. Gallo Herrera started to think, how many worlds do we need so that the current population of the world could have the life quality of medium class Spanish or a Norwegian person or a United States citizen or a Kuwait citizen of social medium class. And that exercise said that we would need 3 worlds or 3 planets, so everyone from the world could have the life for a Spanish, 4 countries for a Norwegian, 5 planets for someone in the United States, and 12 countries for someone who lives in Kuwait. So that makes us think. The first thing is like that salsa song that we play at Christmas. There is no bed for so many people. There are not so many planets to have that life quality that we pretend to have. Another thing is there is a difference between the way and the responsibilities of the country, the limits of the country. It is not this, there is a popular neighborhood called Pescadito. It's like someone who lives in Soho in Nueva York. It's not the same responsibility in terms of consumption. It is not the same as someone, or maybe a community or an indigenous people who lives in a non-contacted community at the Amazonas, to give a very extreme example. If you compare it with someone who travels around the world in his or her own jet. So there are responsibilities in terms of the consumption and different ways of living. But we have to see this in a geopolitical area. For example, what Professor Andrea was saying, who are the ones who consume the majority of the energies? The European countries or developed, they have used their material base in their territories, and those are the peripheral area territories who provide the energy to them. So we have to understand that there is a geopolitical and an asymmetry in terms of the material consumption. There are some responsibilities. There are some relationship of power, as the rector was mentioning, colonial, imperial. So the topic of transition, we have to see it from different point of view, in terms of economic and the development model in where we live, and also from the political point of view. I mean, those who made the decisions in the countries and also in the local territories related to the territory plane, to the territory point of view, but also in the cultural aspect, because we need subjectivities from the transition. We cannot think about a energetic transition if we continue consuming in the same way. We need to desire a different world, to consume different, and to produce different. So there is an ethical and important responsibility, and that is the importance to have and work hand by hand with the territories and think about these concepts that are in the territories. How can we think about sustainability? What is transition? I think that is the nice part of the anthropology, that is not abstract, but they go straight to the point and into the definitions and the practices. That is a very important point to think there. The ethical commitment and moving forward, to transit, to move to a horizon that is different, that also require different humanities. And in order for this to be sustainable, life in the world be sustainable, we need a new human or new humanities to move towards that. I'll stop there. And a last round to hand the floor to those people here. This question is related to what do you think from the university, from TRAJECTS and from the communities, can we teach to the rest of the country, to the regions? This alliance that we are doing today for a just transition, what is that element that we want to learn to want to teach? Very precise. Angelica, then the rector, then Mr. Alvaro, and then our professors, and then Prof. Roberto will end. I think that is a very big question for a short answer. I think that the main sense of this is the recognition of knowledge of the university for the communities. That is key. That the academy recognizes the ancestral knowledges of the communities based in the principle of respect. What do we want to show to the other ones? I think that there is no doubt that what we have to show is that from the communities is that the universities need to do that horizontal job, and from the communities to see what can we do here. And as communities, we have to say, is it true what the universities say or what? But the key part right now are the alliances. I think that is key. The rector, sorry. I think that from the communities, we can learn a lot of things. You were mentioning before, when we talk about transition, it's not only to move forward, because it's that we have to go back to the basics. And that means that maybe right now the professor was doing the comparison about that study, and we have to rethink about life quality concept. And as the qualities, what is life quality? Life quality is not doing a workup at the hottest country and just turn on many ACs. If you have so much money, let's solve the problems and not spend that money in a country where there is a lot of the weather is very hot. And what a community needed to do a party, not a lot of music or radios, but to have only one. So we have to think and adjust the calculation of the planet. We have to rethink what life quality is. I don't think there are some people from the communities who want to be eating toxic food and live like people in Dubai or have a debt for 100 years with a debt. I think the concept of life quality serves for a few and it sells the utopia to other ones. I think that the communities in that going to the basic will be able to teach us to live well in community. Someone from a community is not asking for too much. If he gets sick, they just need a hospital where to go. I don't want to eat caviar or have a yacht or travel around the world. I don't care that. The technology gives us the opportunity to see what other people are doing in other parts of the world. For example, the gypsies, they provided something catalejo, and the different cultures are allowing you to see what they doing there. So that concept of having a life quality. Now we have the phones, the iPad, the laptop. We just need to generate energy to work with the coffee. We don't need energy to have TVs and amplifiers. No, we just need energy to develop what we need and have the resources. I think that our job is to rethink about that concept of life quality and arm a concept that answers to the basic needs of living well and living in community. And I think our communities used to do that 30, 40 years ago with not many knowledge or no. I'm not saying here to be disconnected and I'm not saying that, but for example, a few days ago we didn't have Instagram and WhatsApp, and that was nice. People can talk with their real friends and stop making or feeling bad when they post some pictures, and people can start enjoying normal or in-person interactions. If we are going to talk about that, we could spend a lot of time here talking, but why don't we think a way to measure life quality here in the Caribbean? We don't want to live like the people in Dubai or the Americans, but now here in the Caribbean, there should be some minimums and to see how can we live as a community. And I think that their answer is here in the communities. And here we have just copied the problem from other countries. And the answer, you are the ones who have it. We need to learn in order to create that concept of life quality. That is right. If you go to a place in Las Aguas and you ask the farmer what he wants, he says, I just need the road to transport my products. And he asks, where can the children study? And they wish to have a university, so everything is less expensive. I don't know if this is if you're wrong, but it's important to continue spreading the word through social media. So the important is that we know that The bus is right there because we send the students there. So we need to spread the word even more. And I think if we talk about that even more, since we are here from the territories, and I want to share this message to the communities, and we have to start a new process. We have to close everything and start again. Life is not going to end right now. Our children, our grandchildren are coming, but if we put as a seed, if we plant a seed, then we are going to make it because we are willing to do the job. That is the information I want to give, and also count with the institutional support. Thank you. I also want to mention that La Paz campus is the youngest campus from National University, so it hasn't been able to connect with all the leaders, but here we have some people, and they know that there have been the intention to connect with the Territorial Peace Laboratory. We are in that process, which is also a commitment in the medium term. On the other hand, what can others learn from the country and what we are doing today? I think that what they can learn is that getting rid of ego works, and it's a path that could help us and take us to other type of developments with some results that are more valuable, faster, and closer for the transitions to create a world with a better life quality for everyone and not only for a few. Here, what we have done with Traject is it's many of us have seated and to listen in the same way without taking into account that we have the same level of English that the Cape Town University has, but despite of the fact that National University has had some projects, they don't have, or we don't have the presence or the knowledge or the certainty that the Magdalena University has with the Caribbean. We have had these opportunities to listen to each other and recognize these aspects that have been occurring. I'm just talking from the academy that instead of pulling each one to their side and naming their university more than the other, we can connect. And that is a path or a way that we could learn other institutional academical institutions and other entities and institutions. Let's get rid of that ego. Let's put our shoes on. Let's fasten our seat belts because things are about to get rocky, and let's listen to each other. I think that is what Traject is doing, and that is the biggest lesson and the path we want to continue doing. Thank you, Natalie. I want to make a call. How can the local can provide to the global to the local? I think it's a challenge from Traject, and here from the communities, I want to make a call to the communities. When I started all this, my dream was, and I hope it can become a reality one day, and is that there is an exchange of knowledge. The Superman that is right there, we want to have an exchange of knowledge and Super Mango. He teaches many things, and we want that to share that with South Africa. What are the initiatives when they have similar context in the coal mining? And also, Fuerza Mujeres Waju friends, what is the role of women in this transition? From there, we learn from their daily struggle to defend their territory and to defend human rights and nature rights. And I would like to see that with South Africa as well. What is the role of women in that transition in South Africa? So how can the local provide information to the global? It's like they're opposites, but when you start analyzing, you start seeing that they are very similar. What I hope from Tragic is that through these dialogues and these schools, we can have this exchange of knowledge in all the levels and also with all the actors, and not be only the academy thinking about the transition or discussing about the transition, but cool different actors such as the companies. There are NGOs that work in territories, and it is difficult to have the job or the because of their different jobs. But we all have to talk. If we want to stop working with the mind and leave the fossils on the ground, there is a challenge. The challenge that we'll have about the productivity in terms of the Cesar, Guajira, and Magdalena. What is that productive challenge will be? What would be the challenge from the countries? So I do hope that with projects during this month and this launch of the Sustainability Transitions Month is to know more about the actors that work in transition. But when I say actors, I am talking about different actors and social movements. Social movements at a global level. There are the different movements with the climate change that they that they work in other countries such as Germany. The environmental leaders are being threatened. We cannot go and go to a mine and close it because it's very risky. But here our fight is different. It's from legal processes and to share the knowledge and start legal processes to respect nature and respect life. That is what I expect from projects and what I see these transitions need. I will add something that we have to understand is that we cannot continue consuming like before, like we used to. We have already mentioned that our energy, water, and resources consumption needs to reduce importantly if we want to continue living in this country in the way we expect to do it. And for that, we need a lot of teaching. We need to build a new common sense. We need to build a new common sense in where these words like transition, sustainability, just are part or become part of our daily communication, because this is not something like those who have money can consume more than the others. It is not something related to privilege. It is more about being able to live, everyone to live in a dignified way. So one of the things that the tribe have apported is that to be able to create a community around the reflection of these topics that includes different actors, both from the academy and territorial leaders, but also leaders from the ethnic communities, farmers, colonizers. local authorities as well, that are the ones who made the decisions. So the challenge that we have at TRAJECTS, as we have thought, it's to try to maintain a horizontal dialogue, that tries to get rid of the academical ego or arrogance, and try to listen and learn from other nationalities and other areas. And it's not something that will just remain here in the events, in the launch events, but in fact, it needs to be consolidated in the territories and in the policies. That is the challenge that TRAJECTS proposes. And here we are promoting and opening today this journey of the Sustainability Transition Month. And we hope for this to be not only a month, but decades of transitions. We are thinking about this issue, which is one of the concerns of this century. Thank you very much. We are going to close the interventions with our panel, and we are going to listen a few questions. And now we are going to conclude. I think there was only one question, and we are going to listen to the question. Good morning. My name is Jason Arias from La Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta. I'm from Juan, Pueblo Bello. My question is related to how can we or are going to reestablish our lifestyle without this exploitation? How can we thinking about the change as a humanity, but the cleaning of the territory? If how am I going to get my resources as a farmer or indigenous? But we're not thinking about how can we clean the affectations of the territory, and also change how can we think about changing the logic or the way we use the territory. We see the water as a resource, but for us, that is an offense, because for us, the territory it's worth it. How are we thinking about to adjusting the territory in the globalization, and also the responsibility that we have? Tough question. I just mentioned that, and Jason said something important. In an international project, in a master, we were talking about sustainability tourism. The tourism is unsustainable because someone who comes from Europe leaves CO2, many CO2 tons, and then we have to plant many trees. And in terms of many politicians use this phrase, the tourism will be the new gas or the new oil and the new coal. If tourism it's going to be like that, it will be very bad. It needs to be something regenerative and according to the capability of the territories. If we put thousands of tourists, we are not going to have any other towns. Same thing with the Sierra Nevada, or a model of tourism that maybe different options, and the communities just see the tourists going and see the plastic. In Tayrona area, we are seeing that. If we didn't have any allies in the Tayrona, we couldn't go there. the economy as it was conceived, it is no longer sustainable, because it is not only about not hurting, it's about not, it's a way how can we regenerate the territories. The focus of the energy that happened in Costa Rica, we cannot talk about circular economy, but regenerative. We have to regenerate the cycle from the beginning, generating new consumption habits, because there are some species that have disappeared, and if we don't do a job of repopulating, then we will just have all those species, trees that are going to disappear forever. That is the perspective that we have to think. We cannot only talk about sustainable policies, but the regeneration, the knowledge, ancestry knowledge, and try to, in a future, we could recover things that were lost. We cannot say that stop, that we need to revert the damage. If not, we are going to make a stop on the damage, and then we go back to the levels that we had before. And in that way, we will no longer have a world to live, and we will have to start finding those 4 or 5 words you mentioned. 20, 30 years ago, people were talking about regenerative energies, and that is something key that we have to do. I would like to answer the question by reflecting the knowledge of the ancestral communities have. That balance between two important dimensions, which are the spiritual and the material. When we think about healing the territory, sorry, I wrote it down. Yes, I want to be precise. We need to think about integral healings. Everything comes from the damage that we have done to the balance between the cultures, the values, this break that we have had. And that is something that occurred because we broke the link. That connection with the territory is vital. And how can we start healing? Well, I think that by changing our discourse, our speech, and listening to you, not only from what we have in the academy, but all the knowledge that you have in order, and I'm going to mention Maglis Llanos, so you maybe know her, who is one of the representatives against the fracking movement in Santa Marta, and she mentioned, you worth gold, and she immediately replied back to me, no, I'm kidding. My friends from Santurban is that what is really worth it is water, so you are worth water. And that is something important because sometimes we don't even think, we are not aware of what we are saying, but that represents how our scale of values is upside down. We cannot only heal through restoration processes or adding sumic acids to try to clean our microorganisms or nanotechnology to try to clean and recover. Yes, that's fine, but if we don't have an internal healing that will avoid for us to continue destroying, then in that way, the healing will not be thoroughly. And I think we have a lot to think and to learn from the traditional knowledge, not only from the ancestor communities, but from our own families, the knowledge from our past generations. From the communities, I think that the issue is very complex. I'm talking about the problems about the holes that we have in big communities. Cerrejón is a sacred mountain for us in the south part of the Guajira. I think that we need different actors in order to remove all those artificial mountains. And it is not easy because it has happened for 30 years, but we have to check it from the spiritual work. The mining affected many communities, and there are many sacred places within the territories that today the multinational companies are there, and that's not easy. So in terms of tourism, for example, I think that Guajira is an example of this, and I think the tourism in the territory is terrible, not only because of the amount of CO2 that they produce when they come in an airplane, but also the contamination and the cultural damages that are occurring inside the communities when the children of the community wants to be the one like it comes from the outside, and he doesn't want to be like his or her family. He is not like, it's not like it has become the new normal, but you can find some cases like this in where the territory people from the outside come and they do not respect the natural or spiritual things. Like, for example, when people want to go to the different arcoiris or Rainbow Beach have died because they have not, or they do not respect the cosmogony of the Wayuu towns and countries. So there are many things for this healing of the territory. And yes, we are the ones who need to start with it, but that is a healing that we have to do it with the responsible, which is the Colombian government and also the companies, because the government is the one who allows the companies to enter the territories, but we also have allowed that because we have always wondered what's going to happen with these sinkholes or these pits that are going to stay there. And the answer is, well, you will have an artificial lake, but with so many heavy metals, what can be done there? So it is very complex to say that heal will cost over 1,000 years. Maybe in 40 years, we have destroyed all the flowers, the fauna, and everything that we have in La Guajira. In order to restore the everything, we have a very, very important task. Yes, that is a very tough question to recover and continue with the transition process. With this, we finish. I hand the floor to Maria Angelica. Thanks to the panelists and to all those who have followed us on social media. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to host this part of the event. Dean, thank you very much for your moderation. We have reached the end of this event. We want to thank all our attendees, virtual and in person, all the communities from Magdalena and the TRAJECTS representative in Europe and Germany. Thanks. And for the frame of the Sustainability Transitions Month, have a good day. Thank you.